Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Almost 30 podcast. I am Lindsay Simsick. Welcome to another solo episode. And if you're listening day of this release, happy Valentine's Day. I hope you're all finding a lot of love for yourself today. I know it sounds cheesy, but it's true. That's where it starts. That's how we cultivate love in relationship, is finding a deep love and even more so acceptance of and within ourselves. So happy V-Day, babies. I'm excited to talk to you today about distraction and focus. I might pull in a little thread around relationships because it's very relevant, but it's going to be a really great one. It is fresh on my heart and in my experience, and I have just reflected on and moved through a lot around distraction and focus in recent months. But first, if you're new to Almost 30, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. How the heck did you find us? It's always so interesting. Usually it's word of mouth. Usually it's someone sharing an episode with you, or maybe you found us on Instagram, or maybe you were scrolling through Apple Podcasts. Either way, we know there's a lot to choose from out there. So the fact that you're here is so cool and meant to be. So you have almost 600 episodes to catch up on. Take your time. We'll be here. And if you want to learn more about what we're doing over here at Almost 30, you can go to almost30.com. We have courses and programs. We have an incredible membership where people can come just as they are, wherever they are on their path, and feel connected and supported in their spiritual growth, their personal growth. We do workshops and live hangs, and we have a meditation library, and we have community connections. We have sound healings. We have embodiment sessions. It is so dynamic, so fun, and has been so healing for all of us to be in there together. So you can join right now, almost30.com/membership. You'll learn all you need to know on almost30.com. So let's get into this episode. So distraction and focus. So recently I went on an Instagram hiatus, which I do every single year. I think it pisses my team off because I am offline during the months that are perhaps very important for promoting certain things. I do create content for them to share on Almost 30, but I really try my best to stick to my commitment to myself, which is to completely stay off Instagram. And, this time round, I was really shown how incredibly active my mind can be, and what an incredible place Instagram can be for the mind, where the mind has something to do. The mind has an opportunity to voyeuristically look into people's lives. The mind can think about, how am I going to get there? And why don't I have that? And, compare and just have all of these wild thoughts happening, giving the mind something to do, which it loves. And when I took that stimulus away, when I took Instagram away, I was like, whoa, wow, that thought is looping. Like, wow, my mind is really looking for something the energy is loop on, right? Like the energy is it almost feels like an obsession energy, if you will. And that's how I knew it was certainly time to take a break from IG. So I was a little bit shocked when, in those first 2 weeks, I was kind of having to really reel my mind back, because I would go to these places of serious anxiety around okay, so the fact that I'm not on Instagram right now, means I'm going to have to catch up when I'm back. And I wonder what people are doing and how far ahead they're getting because I'm off and I'm not getting ahead, whatever that means. I have actually no real clue. But my mind was just taking a ride, and I was, I found a place of compassion for my mind, because I know after much therapy and study and experiences that I am not my mind. That is clear to me. So at least I didn't go on the ride with my mind necessarily, but I was observing it and just kind of freaked. And, I found this compassion because, I had realized that things like Instagram or social media, or even like incessantly checking my email or incessantly checking our Slack channel, was something for the mind to do, something that the mind knew how to do, that it was very systematic. The mind could find things that were wrong, things that were right, and kind of like hold that flag of like, yep, I got it. And I just had a lot of compassion for that mind, where I'm like, oh, wow, like that's what matters to you. That is what matters to you. And I knew like my heart, my soul, that's not really what matters to me. It's a part of my life. And, at times I find joy and fulfillment in it for sure. Because I try to stay as aligned as possible within those realms of social media and work and all of those things. But like, it is not all of me. And I think that's what I was understanding, that who I really am is not these things that my mind is being distracted by on a daily basis. And it was kind of trippy to like let that fall off and then be with who I really am. So this hiatus was definitely a catalyst for this conversation. Now, when we say like, I'm distracted, I'm being distracted by X, we usually say like, I am being distracted by my phone, or I'm so distracted by the drama in my friend group right now. You name it, I've blamed it for sure. It's usually that I'm distracted by. But today, I really want to approach this exploration of distraction with more ownership and with more compassion, like I said, I found. And I want to get curious. I think the energy of curiosity is so important to bring to just about anything, whether it's a challenge, a growth point, a relationship, a season of unknown. Can we bring curiosity? And my curiosity has brought me to this place of like, is all distraction bad? Maybe you thought you were going to listen to this episode and I was going to tell you, okay, the parts of you that are distracted, we're going to extract them and we're going to get them focused, like those parts are bad and we got to get focused. But does some distraction have a purpose, right? And how much of distraction is a conscious choice and how much of it is our mind looking for something to do or avoiding something? I really have loved thinking about conscious distraction. I'll talk about it, but it's really an interesting choice point that I've loved allowing myself to have when I know deep down I need a little mental break. Because sometimes we can't get ahead of the mind. The mind's going to run. So how can we kind of soothe it in a way that's healthy, aligned, but just gives it a little something to distract it with? Now, I started this conversation wishing you guys a happy Valentine's Day. I do want to pinpoint one season in particular when I felt the most distracted. The time when I was what it felt like at the mercy of my avoidance of feeling the feels, knowing myself more deeply, of being with myself, alone time, where I was like searching and reaching so far outside of myself for the validation and for the answers, distracting myself from what I know was true and what I just knew on a deep level. And honestly, I was just distracting myself from discomfort, really. And that was my season of being single. So if you've been listening to the podcast for a while now, you know I was the token single girl for about 6 or 7 years here on the show. Or actually a few years before the show and then into the show about 4 or so years. And this was the most transformational season of my life. I'm not going to make this entire episode about my single season, but I do want to pull some threads from this season because when I look back, I realize how incredibly distracted I was. I have a lot of compassion for that girl because she was trying to avoid feeling at all costs, and she was really just trying to bypass this season and get with her person. But that's not the way. That's not the way it works. I was dead set on finding a partner in the wake of, breaking up with a long-term boyfriend. After I had serial dated and kind of had my quote fun for about a year, maybe 2 after that breakup, I felt like it was time. Felt like I had enough space and time between that relationship and where I was at that I was ready to be in a healthy relationship. And at this point, time had just passed. I had, yet to go to therapy or anything major piece or really get honest about how I felt about the breakup or how I handled it and get honest about how I was settling for, pretty poor behavior along the way. But because time had passed, I thought it was time. And what that really means is that I was impatient, incredibly impatient. And so this impatient feeling was uncomfortable. This feeling of being seemingly so far from being in a relationship was uncomfortable. This feeling I had in the wake of my long-term relationship, this guilt, this shame was incredibly uncomfortable. And I wanted to avoid it and escape this feeling at all costs. So I distracted myself. And the ways in which I distracted myself included serial dating people who really didn't have time for me. But the challenge of it was a distraction. The wondering and just like overthinking everything was a great job for my mind to do and was a welcome distraction to my mind. So it didn't have to really get into the juice of what was really going on within me. I also distracted myself with substances. I was drinking quite a bit, whether it was drinking socially, but kind of like going overboard, always being hungover the next day, social lubricant if I was going on dates. I was eating kind of crappy food. I was teaching SoulCycle at the time for many of those years, and I just felt like, well, I'm going to work it off. But I was kind of eating crappy because I was drinking, and drinking never makes you eat healthy. You know what I mean? So it was just this really poor cycle that not only affected my body and how I felt, but really affected my mental health. I would have a lot of anxiety. I would have these like loop thoughts. I would go through just these periods of kind of feeling depressed. And yeah, one of the reasons why was my drinking and just lifestyle at the time. I would also be very focused on other forms of validation. So because I didn't have a partner to validate me as a person, which I thought was what I needed, I would overcompensate. And whether it was finding validation in making a certain amount of money or having a particular accolade when it came to my career, or maybe buying a material item that could make me feel a lot better, like clothes or something like that. When I really shouldn't be spending a lot of money on clothes at that time. But that distraction just kind of soothed something within me. And it really was that buffer between me and the things I needed to work on. And then finally, social media was a way that I distracted myself, and honestly still do at times. And it was a way for me to not only express myself and see myself in a more curated and filtered way, for lack of a better word, than how I really felt inside. And it felt better to project that image than to be real at the time. And as most of you know who've listened to the podcast, eventually, we came around to just being as real as possible in our process. And that's what was so profound and healing. But before that, it was really about projecting another story. And, I was so concerned with, say, finding the one that I was hoping maybe he would see my Instagram, or we would DM each other or whatever. So I would really just get lost. I would really get lost in social medias and use technology as a way of escaping and also projecting a version of myself that really convinced me that things were all right. So those are some examples of distractions that we use to usually avoid a feeling, avoid a healing. And it's okay. It's okay. I don't want to shame us for turning to those things. But what I would love if after this conversation you had a little bit more awareness of what's going on when you are distracting yourself, when you are giving your mind, your psyche somewhere to just run rampant. I want us to be so aware that we observe, we note, and we say, you're doing that thing. Okay, so clearly there's something here that you are protecting me from feeling, from really getting into, and I appreciate that. But adult Lindsay's here. I am in collaboration with my soul, and we're going to take this on. And we will absolutely dip into distraction if we need a little bit of a break, but hear me now, we are in the driver's seat. So that's my goal really for this conversation, to just bring awareness. It's not about bringing shame or just the whip to kind of get you into shape. It's no, let's just bring awareness and compassion to this thing that we do. It's inevitable and we'll do it throughout our lives, and it's okay. But how quickly can we observe and notice and come back to awareness, come back to our center, and really get into alignment and focus on what's really important and what needs to be tended to. So in thinking about distraction, I was okay, so what distraction is good or purposeful? When does that happen? I consider Jan, Feb, and maybe even part of March as the new year period. We don't have to hit the ground running Jan 1, you know what I mean? But one way I love to tell my body and my energetic body that we are resetting for a new year is through the way I nourish my body with food. And I love doing a reset with Sakara. They have organic meals that are nutritionally designed to support your goals so you can get the results you want in the new year and beyond. Plus, they're so delicious, literally so delicious. They're all plant-based, and honestly, I feel like I have a private chef. I am not about crash diets and deprivation. Hopefully you're not either, because that's not sustainable. But Sakara really helps me to nourish more of what helps me look and feel my best. Truly, I feel like my energy is better, my digestion is better, my skin looks better. They also have wellness essentials in addition to the meals that are designed to support your goals as well. So if you're ready for your healthiest year yet, you must try Sakara. It's amazing. Organic meals straight to your door. I had their incredible black bean burger the other day with these sweet potato fries. Oh my God. Everything is just so clean and so yummy. So if you want science-backed, plant-rich nutrition programs and wellness essentials right to your door, you must try Sakara. And right now, Sakara is offering our listeners 20% off their first order when you go to sakara.com/almost30 or enter the code almost30 at checkout. That's sakara.com/almost30 to get 20% off your first order. That's sakara.com/almost30 and enter the code almost30 at checkout. In this day and age, so much of our lives is trackable, which can be very, very helpful, but only if you actually properly wear the thing or follow the thing that's tracking, especially when it comes to your health. So I've really loved the Oura Ring to get the best insights and something that I will absolutely wear because it's so chic. I don't love to wear like the big straps that are like all these funky colors. Oura Ring makes it simple. No screens, no boxy design, no straps. It's just all very dainty, I would say. A ring that delivers accurate, personalized health insights, all from this sweet ring on your finger, and you can track it in the app. So during the day, their advanced sensor technology tracks heart rate, calories burned, and activity levels. And at night, it monitors body temperature, sleep quality, respiratory rate, and so much more. I was super hyped. My sleep quality last night was at an all-time high. I got my recommended amount of sleep, which is a little above 8 hours. I know, indulgent, but it felt so good. And then I know today that I can really put in some work with a nice workout. Sometimes if I don't get enough sleep or I don't get great quality of sleep, I'm less likely to do a hard workout because it's not really great for the recovery of my body. So if you're looking to track your health in a super stylish way, the Oura Ring is it. It's easy to wear, water resistant, and comes in 2 styles and 5 colors to match your aesthetic. So this one small ring, I swear to you, could make a world of difference in your health. So visit auraring.com/almost30, OURA ring.com/almost30 to find the right ring for you and get $15 off your purchase. That's auraring.com/almost30. Don't forget to use our link for $15 off on your Oura Ring. And, I thought about like the ego, because I'm like, yeah, like sometimes the ego needs distraction, right? So I wanted to note kind of why distraction serves us sometimes, so we can put this into context when we are noticing, are becoming aware of our tendencies to distract ourselves. So distraction can keep us from pain. Distraction can keep us from pain. Humans have a really hard time with pain. I am one of them. We can think about it and be like, yeah, like I can get through it. Like I'm okay with pain. I can navigate it. I can do, my practices. But then when it's like literally at your doorstep, you're like, oh no, not the pain. However, it's a beautiful thing that our mind's like, nope, we're not going to touch the pain. That's too much. But what our soul knows is that we are being guided through pain to transmute it and transform it into an incredible opportunity for growth. And usually it's just a call to your next level. It's like, hey, it's going to be a little hard, but you got to trust us. Take a few steps up. Okay, breathe, take your time, but you're getting to your next level. And that's usually what it is. Distraction can also be great for avoiding change or the truth. Ooh, yeah. We don't like change either. Even though we say, I would love a change. I would love to move across the country, and I would love a new job, and I would love, and those things might be true. But when it comes to the change actually happening, our minds haven't necessarily accounted for all the change, like the waterfall of change that happens because of one thing changing. There's a lot of other things that could change. Maybe you get a new job and it requires more of your time and energy, and maybe it affects your relationship with your partner at home. Or maybe you are getting paid more money and your coworkers see you as like, wait, what? Like, you're no longer like at our level. Like, what does this mean? Like, projecting onto you. You know, there's just so much change that happens in the wake of change as well that I don't think we prepare for. And so oftentimes when we are kind of desiring change or there's an impending change, we kind of distract and we might either delay it or like kind of dance around it. And I just want us to notice when we are doing that, because there's a why. There is a why underneath. Distraction can also stall what your soul calls you to do. And what your soul calls you to do might feel really big. It might feel really, really scary. It's also expansive. You might feel not worthy of it. So you might distract so that you don't actually have to be like, okay, I'm in. Let's do this. Because what does that mean? That means not necessarily that there's no looking back, but it's that energy of like, okay, I'm all in. And that really requires the next level of you, which is a scary thing to confidently welcome into your existence. So we will distract. So if your soul is calling you to break up with your current partner, you know, there's been a lot of red flags and just poor behavior, and you know, you're just not happy, you're dimming your light, and you know, instead of actually having a conversation with your partner and being honest about how you're feeling and really taking those next steps to end the relationship, instead, maybe you go out partying with your girlfriends and you get drunk and you forget about it. Or maybe food is something that you use to kind of numb and distract. And maybe you distract yourself by like planning all these things to do together just to make it feel like it's normal. That's really a distraction from the truth of what's really going on. And finally, I thought about distractions as, you know, a way to rebel and assert our autonomy as human beings. You know, sometimes I'm like, I just want to scroll YouTube and just watch stupid videos. I want to watch Netflix and watch just the craziest, weirdest shows right now and have no one freaking look at me. And it's usually in response to like a full day of being focused and working, or maybe I have 100 emails in my inbox unread and I have so much to do, but I'm just like, fuck, no. Like just rebelling and being like, I'm my own person. I can do what I want. And it's just a way to like assert my autonomy and, you know, inner rebel of sorts, however mild she is, but it's definitely a way that we use distraction. So there you have it on what do we commonly distract ourselves with, and then how might distractions serve us, just to put us in the context of noticing. So your ability to notice these behaviors that usually feel like unconscious, kind of looping behaviors, whether it's just like standing in the fridge and eating your whole fridge, distracting yourself, or whether it's like incessantly scrolling on YouTube, watching video after video, not really knowing what you're watching. Or maybe you are on the dating apps and like saying yes to all these dates and just going out on all these dates and not really keeping track of how you feel, but it just feels good to be out there. Okay. Feels like that looping energy, which is kind of how I would describe or partly describe distraction. So we can notice that behavior, and then we can offer or invite in compassion to this behavior, and our conscious self can say, okay, I see you. I see this, you know, this behavior. this habit, what's here? Like how is this serving you right now? How is this serving your mind or your ego? How is this serving you right now? And asking genuinely. It's not just like, sarcastically. It's like, no, genuinely, like, how is this serving you? Because it must be. And this is a way of just getting more information on what's here. You don't necessarily need to do anything right away. That could be too overwhelming, but we just get more information by getting curious. It's so important to get curious when you're observing your own human behavior, right? I want to give another example of when I was distracted or like choosing distraction. It was an example of when I was avoiding something that I think on a soul level I knew would bring me joy. Isn't it crazy? We know something's going to bring us joy and fulfillment on a soul level, but we avoid it. Yeah, it's wild. I'm just like kind of in awe of me at times. I'm like, really, this is something calling you forward, but you are avoiding it. And this in particular was about our book proposal that we recently wrote. And I think the fear of never having done a book proposal, the fear of never having written a book really kept me on this surface level of staying busy, keeping distracted, rather than actually dropping in and focusing on writing this proposal, which takes a lot of focus, of singular focus, and also a lot of time and space around the writing period so that I could drop in and really get like ooey gooey with my thoughts and reflections and stories. But I was avoiding it. I would go into my email inbox and answer all these emails. I would go into Slack and kind of busy myself there. I would look at my notebook in my computer, and I would like set up all my to-dos, and then I would check off the to-dos. And literally it's like 3 hours later and I hadn't even done anything for the book proposal, which I had blocked off in my calendar. Oh, like I would go clean the bathroom, I would unload the dishwasher, I would make myself a little lunch, and then I would clean it up, and then I would do a little laundry. And I'm like, oh, still haven't done the book proposal. Still waiting for me. And I just had to look at that. And really, I think for me, it's just taking time for me to trust the call of my soul. And it's taken years, to be honest. There are times when it's so clear and I'm down and I'm ready and there's no friction. But there are some times when the call is so strong, I'm like, oh, what does this mean for me? Does this mean I'm going to change who I am? And does this mean I'm going to have to really level up in how I approach things? And, oh, I'm going to be a writer now. What does that mean? Like, am I going to be good? Just all of these looping crazy thoughts come in. Rather than actually just devoting myself to focus and seeing what comes of it, like placing very little expectation on it, but just devoting myself to deep, deep focus. Maybe you relate, I want to talk about the energetics of distraction briefly, because I just found it to be really interesting when I meditated on this. I'm like, oh yeah, it's so interesting. So I mentioned like the looping part of this that I think is like a energy signature of distraction for sure. But I journaled on this and I wrote that distraction is a way in which the human being avoids the pain of being disconnected from their soul, from their spirituality, from that which is unseen, but also the source of all creation. There is a dulling of the spirit that can happen in modern society. Like, do we feel that at any point? A dulling of the spirit that can happen in our society, whether it's by social media or the news or, the rise and grind and rat race that so many people find themselves in. The external stimuli can easily pull us from our centers. External stimuli could be, the media, the news, social media. It could be the numbers and the comparison and seeing other people's lives and wanting what they have. It could be the potential for a promotion, but you have to sell your soul. Like all of these external stimuli can easily pull us from our center and have, right? Like we've all had experiences where we've been completely pulled from our center, from our knowing, from our alignment. Especially this can happen if you're in a lower state, a lower vibration, emotionally, mentally, or physically, which we've all experienced and continue to experience intermittently. So we must be aware, of when distraction tries to pull us. The energy of distraction serves as that escape from the feeling of separation, from the feeling of that surface level existence. It makes us forget that, we've actually totally missed the point on a few things and, have forgotten who we are. And it just feels better to forget that and distract from that rather than actually do the due diligence to call ourselves back to ourselves. So what I can assume from this is that we want depth. We really do, as human beings with a body and a soul and a mind, we do want depth. But what holds us back from going there? I don't know. I mean, I don't have the answer, but, in thinking about it, it's like the fear of the unknown, maybe. I also thought about the fear of death, like the death of parts of ourselves that will inevitably die in the process of diving deep into the wholeness of who we are and really getting into alignment. Like things will die off, whether it's parts of us or parts of your life will die off. And it can just be really, it can be tough. It can totally feel like a dark night of the soul, but are we really that afraid to step into our lives? To really face what is, to reclaim who we are and why we're here? Like, are we really that afraid that we will just settle for a surface distracted existence and resist and just avoid the depth? Are we really that afraid? And I don't think we are. I think the mind perhaps has convinced us that we are, and subconsciously we hold that fear. So, I want to call us into a kind of stillness that can really shine a light on distraction and say what it is and tell us what it is. Stillness is very hard for us. And I want to say rightly, we put a lot of emphasis on stillness, but there's nothing wrong with motion. I think there's just a balance, right? I'm not asking you to be a monk and sit in meditation for hours and hours a day, and stop all the things you're doing. But living in a world of motion, and I want to pull a quote from Mark Nepo. Living in a world of motion, we are constantly asked to quiet ourselves in order to glimpse and feel the truth of things, the way we wait for water to go still so we can see the bottom. This is particularly hard when in pain. Oh, think of a time when you experienced an incredible amount of pain. Wasn't it so hard to be still? Wasn't it so hard to be with the pain? Wasn't it easier to try to control the next few steps or figure out why you're experiencing this pain or why this thing happened or why they left or, whatever the circumstance is? Isn't it easier to let the mind just rip rather than be still and feel? I want to pull another quote from Mark Nepo because he's my favorite, and I think it's really true. When things fall apart, like they do when you're in pain, when things fall apart, they make a lot of noise. When things come together, they do so quietly and slowly. And so we often miss them. Our culture is obsessed with how things fall apart. The news reports only the noise of things breaking down. The weather is even called storm watch. Yet things are constantly coming together, though we have forgotten how to hear them. Yeah, we've forgotten how to hear and feel things coming together because it is so subtle. And I believe that distraction is keeping us from feeling things coming together in our lives. It might not be in the way that you imagined or you planned for, but man, oh man, they're coming together for you. They are coming together for you. And if you're distracting yourself from being in your present experience, you're going to miss it. And you might look for the next thing to fix or make better or to aspire to be or do. And there's nothing wrong with aspirations. But if we aren't here and still in a way that balances out how much we are in motion, I worry that we are going to miss our life, that we are going to really miss the moments that we have collaborated on to bring together to prove to us that miracles are happening all the time and that death and rebirth is happening all the time. Let's take a breath. How is this landing? If you're nodding, that's good. I had a dear friend recently share with me her experience with Mind Bloom, and I was just blown away. If you are someone who struggles with anxiety and depression, then you know firsthand it's really not about finding that new therapist or starting a new exercise routine or just meditating more, maybe having a better diet. All of those things are important, yes, but sometimes you need to unlock your brain, a new way of thinking about and seeing the world. And so she found Mind Bloom, which is guided ketamine therapy. And she says that she has taken back control of her life, that she feels free of the loop thoughts, of the incessant inner judgment. And she is just loving this liberated feeling and is truly feeling like life is in color now. And I was just like moved when she was describing her experience. And I told her, I was like, actually, Mind Bloom is a partner of ours. So I would love to anonymously share your story. So this is something that has been incredibly impactful for so many people. And I know that anxiety and depression is common. You are not alone, but there's a new tool to improve your mental health, and it's at-home ketamine therapy. Mind Bloom is the leader in at-home ketamine therapy, having safely helped thousands of people overcome their anxiety and depression. And unlike traditional talk therapy, ketamine works quickly and doesn't have the unpleasant side effects of traditional antidepressants. In a study of over 1,200 Mind Bloom clients, 89% reported improvements in their anxiety and depression after only 2 sessions. How freaking incredible. Right now, Mind Bloom is offering our listeners $100 off your first 6-session program when you sign up at mindbloom.com/almost30. And you can use the promo code almost30 at checkout. Take the first step and break free from your anxiety and depression with Mind Bloom. If you are hesitating, if you are someone to put something like this off, take this as your sign. This is the time. Go to mindbloom.com/almost30 and use promo code almost30 to get $100 off your first 6-session program. It's really hard to know where to start and who to trust when it comes to supplements. But let me tell you, AG1 makes it so much easier. I have been incorporating AG1 by Athletic Greens into my routine for about, I think it's like going on 3.5, almost 4 years now. This is 1 scoop one scoop in water that has truly filled the nutritional gaps for me. I have met the founder. I have met people in the company that have gone into detail about how they source their ingredients. And I was like blown away. They literally do not stop until they find the best quality of each ingredient. It's pretty phenomenal. One scoop has 75 vitamins and minerals and whole food sourced ingredients. It has a greens powder, a probiotic and prebiotic. Honestly, I felt benefits like improved digestion. My hair and skin feels amazing. It honestly supports my sleep. I feel like I'm sleeping more soundly. I take this either in the morning to start my day, so on an empty stomach, or a couple hours after an early dinner. I'll have my athletic greens, maybe like an hour before bed, and I just find like I sleep so well. I love how it tastes. A lot of people look at greens and they're like, ew, but no, this tastes amazing. It has like a slight sweetness to it, but there's like literally less than 1 gram of sugar. But I love it. So if you are looking to fill your nutritional gaps, if you are overwhelmed by what supplements you should take, this one scoop of AG1 is incredible. It gives you increased energy, mood support, making it really easy to live your best life. I'm so excited for you. So excited for you. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/almost30. That's right, baby. athleticgreens.com/almost30. And you're going to get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D plus 5 free travel packs with your subscription. So I'm really excited for you. This is going to come straight to your door. You're going to get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your purchase. Most of us are deficient in vitamin D. This is incredibly important. And I love these travel packs. I take them with me wherever I go. athleticgreens.com/almost30. That's athleticgreens.com/almost30. Check it out.
So what does your mood, sleep, skin, metabolism, pain levels, and energy have in common? I'll give you a second. They're all deeply impacted by the health of your menstrual cycle, actually. So taking care of your cycle is truly foundational to taking care of these aspects of your wellness. Half of the world has menstrual cycles, and it's estimated that 90% of us have disruptive symptoms every month. I know for me that when I had an IUD in, my cycle was so painful, my cramps were super painful, and I felt like I would have these emotional waves prior to my period that I just could not control. And so when I went through this period of having these really intense emotions and mental upset prior to my period, I knew I wanted to do something different. So I've tried everything under the sun for period cramps or for the moodiness around my period, and I tried Daloon and loved it. And after trying Daloon, it supported my cycle health all month long while also supporting my cramps and any PMS symptoms. So with Daloon, which is an amazing supplement, they have a few different things that they support people with. You don't have to miss out on life because of your cycle. So 90% of the customers that use this product experience relief, and it is a nutritional solution by dietitians that's formulated to work with your cycle health and not against it. It's this really beautiful drug-free supplement. I'm all about going natural as much as I can, being drug-free as much as I can, and it supports the relief you need naturally so you can start feeling like your best self. So I really love Daloon. If you're someone that experiences periods, cramps, moodiness, any type of PMS, it'll support you in that, and it'll really help to balance your hormones so you can feel your best. We talk about this quite a lot on the podcast because it's such a relevant topic for our community. So this feels like a perfect partner, and I'm so excited for you to try. So you can try Daloon at cyclehealth.com/almost30. That's cyclehealth.com/almost30. And using the code almost30, you can get 23% off plus free shipping. Yes, that is 23% off, which is really exciting, plus free shipping at cyclehealth.com/almost30. That's cyclehealth.com/almost30. And that's almost 30 code for 23% off plus free shipping, and support your best life today.
I want to talk about how we are going to reclaim our focus. Reclaim our focus. And this doesn't mean, focusing on something for hours and hours a day and making it this obsession, right? Like that could be your path. But when I say focus, I'm talking about deep, intentional alignment and awareness of the alignment. And I think that that's where a lot of our fulfillment lies. It's not in these accolades and different forms of validation and in finding your person and getting the paycheck that you want and moving to the perfect apartment. It's like, no, how often are we in alignment, living presently in our lives, balancing the motion and the stillness, and saying yes to what our soul wants to do? And what our soul wants to do takes focus. It does, because we can so easily become distracted. I don't know if you've ever started to do something that you're like, yes, I'm finally gonna cook this lasagna that I've been wanting to cook. It seems so yummy and fun, and I just want to like totally lose myself in cooking this lasagna. This is totally me. And then phone's like charging on the counter, and you kind of see someone text you, or you see a ping from like a social media app, and you're like, oh, okay, let me check this. And then 20 minutes later, I'm still scrolling Instagram. I forgot that I'm making lasagna, and the ingredients are like on the counter, drying out. And I'm like, she's like totally stole my focus. So it does require practice. It does require work, but over time, how much you are focused on retaining that alignment and flow will way outweigh how often you're getting distracted. And when you get distracted, you'll come back so much quicker. So just know that this is a process, this is a practice. And if you're serious about it, start today with noticing, just noticing when you get distracted, and just be like, oh, that's that part of you. Interesting. What's happening here? What do you really need? What's really going on? How is this distraction serving you? That's all you need to do today. And then we move into, reclaiming that focus and what that looks like. For me, my focus practice has been certainly supported by meditation. I know a lot of you are like, oh, meditation. Okay, I'm just not good at it. Well, that's great. Like, I'm glad you're saying you're not good at it, because you're noticing that you're getting incredibly distracted while you meditate. And it's really not the point to judge yourself and give up and be like, I'm bad at meditating. The point is just to come back. The point is to come back and breathe and focus on your breath. And if thoughts come up, if you just like journey somewhere, okay, come back to the breath. All good. And it's that simple practice. I know it's simple. I know it sounds too good to be true, but that's one of the cornerstones of how I retain my focus. And then I have chosen, in certain, I usually do it by like month. So I will choose a focus activity, usually something that has nothing to do with work, nothing to do with anything like that, but just something that takes my focus. Cooking is certainly one of them. I also am doing like this program for fun on like reading your soul. And that has taken a lot of focus where, I watch and listen to the different modules every day. I take notes. I do practice sessions. Like, it's really fun for me. And it's cultivated this focus and deep dive in something that I know is translating into even focus on work things, or being really present and focused when my partner is talking to me about something they want to discuss. Cooking, as I said, is one of those things where it's like, it brings me a lot of joy and I get lost in the recipe where I'm like, okay, so the exact measurement here, and let me observe how this particular ingredient like makes this a little bit thicker. Like I just get so caught up in a good way in like the sensory experience of cooking. Ooh, that smells so good. Okay, the oven's ready. We're going to wait this amount of time, and just take a lot of pride in that process. And in doing that, I'm able to just focus so beautifully. So I want you to pick on like a monthly basis something to really reclaim your focus, something that's fun, something that lights you up, something that has like very low stakes. Okay. And I want you to practice that over the month and see how it feels and see how it translates into different areas of your life, and see how those like typical or usual forms of distraction are no longer as attractive to you, are as tantalizing to you. They just kind of become dull because you're like, but the deep focus is just the bee's knees. And like, that's what it becomes. Like you just want the depth, because we want the depth, but we become so used to the distraction and the surface and the overstimulation and the quickness of information and but really what we crave is a balance of stillness and depth. And stillness doesn't mean necessarily physical stillness all the time, but mental stillness, mental relaxation. You could be cooking, but like totally like, ooh, just not thinking about it, just kind of following the recipe, but just kind of doing it. You're not really overthinking things like, oh God, what if this is horrible? It's like low stakes. We're just making something, right? You can be on a walk, just like observing your neighborhood and like the nature around you as if you're just seeing it for the first time, or maybe you're people watching and you're not thinking too much. You're just like, oh, cool, taking everything in, right? So these types of still yet focused activities are just so nourishing, and they will teach you what it feels like to choose that focus. And I really think, to round this out, focus to me is when I am in conversation with my heart, with my soul, however you want to describe it. And I don't feel pulled. I feel clear. And even if things are not certain and I'm in an unknown, I still feel clear that when it is time, I will be guided, and I feel comforted by that. And that helps me to keep focus rather than distracting myself with needing to control or, needing to avoid this uncomfortable feeling of not knowing. So I know that if I am cultivating my relationship with my soul, with my heart, and in little ways, just following my heart, just taking that left turn instead of the right turn on my walk, or calling a friend that I've been meaning to call, or, I've been really dying to make that recipe and share it with friends and like pass out these cookies, right? Like just really following my heart. I notice that my ability to focus is so much stronger. Don't know the science behind it, but I've practiced this and tested this, and it works. So I want you to bring to your heart, in this closing of this episode, I want you to bring to your heart something that you have been avoiding and using distraction as a way to create a buffer between you and the thing that you've been wanting to do, wanting to be, wanting to embody, wanting to create. This could be having a really important conversation with a family member. This could be writing the book you've always wanted to write. This could be making the move that you've been wanting to do for years. You've been wanting to move to this new city. I want you to bring that to your heart, and I just want you to notice like how it feels to bring it so close into a place that's so vulnerable, so big, and like so a lot. Just notice. And I just want you to get curious here. let's get curious about this feeling of overwhelm, perhaps, that you're feeling, or whatever you're feeling. Let's get curious about it. So you can even ask, hand over heart, just like, oh, what is here? What is this? How is this intense feeling distracting me from what is really here for me? And just see what comes up. Let's get curious. Or maybe you ask, where does this come from? Where is this overwhelm? Like, show me the origin of this. And just notice what your heart shows you. And this is something you can do on your own. So, I'm going to keep moving, but you can definitely do this on your own. So let's take just note of this process. And then with that new information, can you bring a little bit more compassion to the part of you that wants to create that buffer between you and doing the thing, being the thing, embodying the thing, finally starting the thing? Like, can we just have a little compassion conversation with that part of you? Like, yeah, it must feel so big and expansive that it scares you because you've never done it before and no one's ever modeled that for you. And it must just feel like a lot of pressure. And I'm totally seeing and hearing you on that. Just providing a little bit of just like big sister brother energy, right? And then I want you to have that conversation that's like, yeah, but adult Lindsay, adult you is in control, and we're going to go on this ride, and I want you to know you're going to be totally safe. But I am going to prioritize and focus on what's in alignment for me. And my ability to focus, really hold focus on what is true and what's aligned, is what you're seeking, is that feeling that you're seeking. So you can trust me on that. And then I want you to pick, something that you can do, something that you can focus on just right now, over the next, let's say, week, that you can focus on that is kind of working towards the thing that you want to do, be, embody, finally create. Make it small. I don't want you to go straight to the thing. Maybe if you have to have an intense or serious conversation or important conversation with a family member, maybe over the next week, every single morning, you can write a letter either to that family member in the context of this conversation that you want to have. So that takes focus, that takes presence, that takes commitment. Or maybe you write to the part of you that's afraid to have this conversation, right? So I want you to cultivate a practice of focus around this thing that you really want to do, be, create. And I want you to see how you feel at the end of this week. How does it feel? A little more confidence, pride in the fact that you stuck to it and you were focused. Do you feel a little less anxious because you were able to go deep? You were able to provide yourself the space and the time to go deep. Ooh, yeah, that feels good. I want more of that, right? And so then we just invite in another practice of focus that is moving us towards that thing. What is the next one for the next week? And we can take this in stages. If you feel ready to kind of go bigger, okay. But we can take this in stages. Okay, how does that feel? You can do this. You can totally, totally do this. I'm really thankful that, we could chat about this today, and that I could kind of put my recent experience into an audio form for you. We're also on YouTube, by the way. But it was really important. I felt called. I was like, oh, is this a weird episode to put out on Valentine's Day? And I was like, no, it totally applies. Totally applies, because a holiday like Valentine's Day can certainly pull us from our center, pull us from our focus. It can make us and convince us that there are a lot of other things that are more important, meaning, The flowers are really important. The cards are really important today. Make sure you do that. It's really cool if you have a partner that you can celebrate with. It's really awesome if you can do a double date and do, whatever the mind goes for. But it applies, there is a deep focus that is required in cultivating a relationship with yourself that translates into every other relationship with a romantic, friends, family, any, right? So how can we live less in our heads, live more in our hearts, which is where I believe true focus gets its juice? And how can we cultivate practices where we feel our powers increasing? I don't know about you, but scrolling social media does not make me feel powerful. It leaves me feeling a little deflated sometimes, maybe just like zapped of my energy. Maybe that's just me, but how can we feel our powers increase? I wanted to pull just a quote from Cal Newport's Deep Focus. Distraction is the opposite of joy, which becomes rarer as we spend more time in a frictionless environment of easy and trivial digital choices. So I'll leave you with that. The point is not to live in this frictionless existence. When the pain comes up, there is a purpose to create more of who you are, to mold you into more of who you are, to activate more of your power. But if we live in a frictionless environment and everything is just easy breezy, convenience, you name it, in this like digital world, it's just like lots of trivial choices around us, right? Then how are we going deep? How are we growing? How are we reflecting and understanding things on a deeper level? Like it's almost impossible at times. So let's not avoid the friction. Let's not avoid the hard. We are absolutely able to navigate this from our hearts in that focused state. We absolutely can, and you deserve that experience. I love you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you for listening. I hope this landed. Even if one thing landed, I have done my job, truly. Take time to slow down so we can kind of let things settle a bit lower, right? Not in the head, but really in the heart and in the gut. So take time to slow down a little bit, balance out that constant grind and motion. I'm here for you. I am back on IG. I am, but intermittently. I'm officially back, so you can DM me. I would love to talk about this episode. It would mean a lot to have a conversation with you about this and how it landed. And if it did, tag me on Instagram. I want to hear about it. I want you to share it with friends. It means a lot to us. I am on Instagram at Lindsay Simsick. You can find out more about Almost 30, what we got going on, almost30.com. And last plug is my Sacredness of Being Single program. So if you are someone who, is in this season of your life, I would be so honored to support you. It was a transformational season for me, and hundreds of women have gone through this program, and I continue to support them in reclaiming this season, finding power here. And it doesn't mean we're avoiding getting in a relationship. That's not the point at all. In fact, I think if you embrace this season in the way that we are on the program, you will find yourself in a relationship that is just more soul-fulfilling than you could ever imagine. So I would love for you to join me. You can join at any time. We do live calls, 2-hour live calls with me once a month. They are just so deep and juicy and the best. And I'm excited to welcome you into the program. You can go to sacrednessofbeingsingle.com. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. And I will see you on the next one. soon.